Hey guys, thanks for tuning into Literature to Life, a podcast where I attempt to explain the main topics of some old or confusing books and how they can actually relate to our lives today.
Literature to Life.
When I heard that we were going to read The Death of Ivan Illych, a short story about the death of Ivan Illych, I know, what a shocker, written by Leo Tolstoy, the Russian dude who wrote the biggest book known to man, otherwise known as War and Peace. Let's just say I wasn't jumping up and down from excitement. But after reading this short story, I realized that this Russian dude actually had some wisdom that he could enlighten a senior in high school with. Some themes that Tolstoy covers in the story are death, dissatisfaction, relationship, and love, and expectations. But the first topic that I'm going to cover is relationships. This, at first glance, is the least weird main theme in the list because we all deal with relationships every day. Whether that be the relationship with your parents, siblings, friends, or even your cat, although relationships with animals are pretty easy compared to humans. This theme is something that is constantly being addressed in The Death of Ivan Illych. Ivan, just before his death, realizes that he is really sad about his whole life and about the way his relationships have gone. He married his wife just out of duty and expectations that society put on him, and because of that, their marriage wasn't too focused on love and commitment, but rather what advantages they could get from their marriage. What we can take away from this is a pretty obvious point that I think we have all heard before. Marry someone out of love and not out of duty or expectations. We can also take away the fact that we need to prioritize our relationships with the people around us because they are not always going to be around. It is also super important to realize this now because when Ivan realized it, it was way too late to rebuild his relationships because he was on his deathbed. And relationships can bring a lot of meaning to our lives. And now, a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor for this week's podcast of Literature to Life is a Chinese company that makes a motorcycle / dirt bike called the Hawk 250. They actually graciously sent me one, and my review of this is that it is very fun to ride and easy to work on and has cheap parts. I would highly recommend buying a Hawk 250 for yourself, considering the fact that they are only $1,500 off of Amazon. Now, back to the podcast. Now, we move on to a topic that is just a tiny bit less cheesy and heavy, which is the theme of expectations. Now, whoever you are or wherever you live, or if you're just anyone at all, we all have some sort of expectations on us, whether that be spoken or unspoken. This is something that Ivan also struggled with, surprised, because he's a human, and he struggled with it actually immensely. Ivan's driving factor to anything he did was expectations. He went to law school because that is what his parents expected of him. He married his wife because that is what society expected of him. He got a better paying job to be more accepted in society because of the expectations of his wife. I could keep going on with this list, but I think we've all gotten the point by now. I know that for me personally, I have many expectations that are put on by myself, my parents, and society, and it can be really hard when I don't meet those expectations. We also see this in Ivan's life because just before his death, he realizes that none of those expectations that were the main priority in his life are important anymore because they didn't make him happy, but rather very dissatisfied with his life. Dissatisfaction is also a huge part of this book because not only Ivan is dissatisfied, but also his wife, daughter, son, and everyone in high society. Because all of these people were striving for society and money, rather than what really matters in life, they all ended up feeling dissatisfied with their lives, although they might not realize that until they're about to die, like in Ivan's case. Ivan's wife was constantly dissatisfied with her social standing, the amount of money that Ivan made, and her relationship with Ivan. Ivan's daughter is so dissatisfied with the social standing of her family that she decides to marry someone she doesn't love, but someone with a huge income and a good social standing. You'd think she'd know better by now with how her parents' relationship turned out. Anyway, everyone in high society of Russia in those times were very dissatisfied, and that is characterized by the initial emotions of Ivan's coworkers when he died. Their initial reaction was, who is going to get a job and make more money so that they can get higher in society? The lesson we can learn from this is that we should strive to find things that give us meaning in life. For me, these may include faith, relationships, and work, and then we can live our life to the fullest knowing that we are doing something to make a difference. We will all find more fulfillment in life if we shift our focus from the things that are important in society to things that are important to finding meaning for ourselves, instead of trying to look cool in front of others for personal gain, instead of personal growth. I know that for me and my experiences, I have always benefited and grew more when I do something just because I know that I need to do it to find meaning in life and for personal growth, versus when I do something just to seem cool in front of my peers. We see this point of view through Gerasim, a character who showed unconditional love to Ivan in his time of pain. Gerasim was someone who was satisfied with his life even though he was in the lowest social standing. And this is what made Ivan realize how dissatisfied he was with his life. The takeaway from Gerasim is we should all strive to be a Gerasim to the people around us, whether that be willing to lend a hand to someone or showing true unconditional love, and doing something not just for personal gain but because he wanted to. Anyways, we can get some pretty cool life lessons from the death of Ivan Illich. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and I hope you actually learned something and how literature can actually relate to our lives today.